Most people think the biggest chains in life are money, power, or even fate. But the truth is, the strongest prison isn't made of steel. It's built inside your head. Think about it. You weren't born afraid of speaking your mind or dancing like an idiot or standing alone. As a child, you screamed when you wanted to. You drew messy pictures and called them masterpieces. You wore clothes that didn't match and didn't care. Then one day someone laughed. Someone stared. Someone whispered. And just like that, you started building walls inside yourself. Now every choice you make runs through a filter. How will I look? What will they think? Will they laugh? Will they approve? This filter is so automatic you don't even notice it. Psychologists call it the fear of negative evaluation. But for you, it's the reason you don't raise your hand. Don't chase the person you actually want. Don't admit what you really believe. Here's the sinister part. It doesn't just silence you. It rewires who you are. You think you're choosing freely, but you're really auditioning for an invisible audience. You're not living a life, you're performing one. And once you understand how this prison works, you'll realize just how much of your life has been lived for other people, not for yourself. The prison you can't see. Sarah stares at her phone screen. She's typed out the message 3 times, deleted it twice. It's just a comment on her friend's political post, something she genuinely believes in. But her finger hovers over the send button. What if people disagree? What if they think I'm too radical, too naive? Delete. The message disappears into digital silence, and with it another piece of her authentic voice. Meanwhile, across the city, Marcus sits in a boardroom meeting. His boss presents a strategy that Marcus knows won't work. He's seen the data. He's lived the market reality. The room nods in agreement. Marcus opens his mouth, then closes it. He thinks about his mortgage, his promotion review next month, the way his boss's eyes narrow when challenged. He stays silent. The meeting ends with applause for a plan destined to fail. 2 different people, 2 different situations, 1 invisible prison. This is the silent prison of judgment, a cage built not of bars, but of imagined eyes watching your every move. Unlike physical prisons, you can't see its walls. You can't touch its locks, but you feel its weight every single day. It shapes how you walk, how you talk, what you dream, and what you dare to become. The prison operates on a simple principle. Before every action, every word, every decision, there's a calculation. Not what do I want, but what will they think? Not what feels right, but what looks safe. Your authentic self becomes buried under layers of performed acceptability, and you begin to mistake the performance for who you really are. Here's what makes this prison particularly insidious. It doesn't need guards. It doesn't need locked doors. It runs on autopilot, powered by your own mind. Every imagined criticism becomes a chain. Every feared rejection becomes a wall. And slowly, without even realizing it, you become both the prisoner and the warden of your own diminished life. The judgment we fear isn't always real. Most of the time, it's phantom criticism from phantom observers who are too busy worrying about their own image to scrutinize yours. But the prison treats phantom judgment like real judgment, and phantom chains bind just as tightly as real ones. Consider this. When was the last time you did something, truly did something, without first calculating how it would be received? When did you last speak a truth that felt risky, wear something that felt bold, or pursue something that felt uncertain? If you have to think about it, you're already living in the prison. The psychology of judgment. To understand why judgment has such power over us, we need to go back, way back, to a time when being judged by your tribe wasn't just uncomfortable, it was lethal. For our ancestors, social rejection meant exile. Exile meant death. Your survival depended not just on your ability to hunt or gather, but on your ability to remain accepted by the group. Those who were cast out didn't leave behind descendants. Those who stayed, who conformed, who kept the peace, they lived to pass on their genes. And with those genes came something crucial, a deep, primal fear of social rejection. This fear lives in your brain today. It's wired into your amygdala, that ancient alarm system that can't tell the difference between a saber-toothed tiger and a dismissive comment on social media. When you imagine being judged, your brain doesn't think mild social discomfort. It thinks survival threat. Your heart races. Your palms sweat. Your body prepares for fight or flight. even though the only danger is to your reputation. In the 1950s, psychologist Solomon Asch ran a series of experiments that revealed just how powerful our need for social acceptance really is. He showed participants a simple task: identify which of 3 lines matched the length of a target line. Easy, right? But here's the twist. The participant was surrounded by actors who deliberately gave wrong answers. The results were disturbing. About 75% of participants conformed to the group at least once, even when the group was obviously wrong. They looked at a short line, knew it was short but said it was long because everyone else did. When interviewed afterward, many said they knew the group was wrong but feared looking foolish. Others actually convinced themselves the group must be right. Think about that. These weren't matters of opinion or complex moral questions. These were objective visual facts, and still, the fear of judgment was strong enough to make people deny the evidence of their own eyes. Stanley Milgram's famous obedience experiments revealed another dimension of this prison. Participants were willing to administer what they believed were dangerous electric shocks to strangers, simply because an authority figure told them to. When asked why, they consistently said they didn't want to appear uncooperative or difficult. They tortured innocent people rather than risk social disapproval. The philosophers understood this too. Nietzsche wrote about the masks we wear, how we become so accustomed to performing for others that we forget who we are beneath the performance. Every profound spirit needs a mask, he said, but he also warned that the mask could become the face. Marcus Aurelius, writing in his private journal that became the Meditations, reminded himself again and again not to be swayed by the opinions of others. How much trouble he avoids, who does not look to see what his neighbor says or does. He knew, as an emperor, how seductive the approval of others could be, and how dangerous. Jean-Paul Sartre called it the gaze, the way we internalize the imagined judgments of others until they become a constant presence in our minds. We begin to see ourselves through their eyes, real or imagined, and shape ourselves to fit what we think they want to see. This is the machinery of the silent prison. Ancient survival instincts, modern social pressures, and a brain that can't tell the difference between real danger and imagined judgment. It's not a character flaw or a personal weakness. It's human nature. But understanding it is the first step toward transcending it. Signs you're living in the silent prison. The prison doesn't announce itself with sirens or flashing lights. It moves quietly, reshaping your life one small compromise at a time. Here are the signs you've been living behind invisible bars. You rehearse conversations that never happen. Standing in the shower, you practice exactly what you'll say to your boss about the raise you deserve. You anticipate every objection, craft every response, polish every word, but when the moment comes, you say nothing. Or you water down your request so much that it becomes meaningless. The person you were in the shower, confident, articulate, deserving, stays there when you leave. Jennifer does this every day. She's been underpaid for 3 years, watching newer hires get salaries 20% higher than hers. In her mind, she's had the conversation with her manager 100 times. In reality, she smiles politely at reviews and accepts another year of budget constraints. You edit yourself into invisibility. You type a comment, delete it. Write an email, soften it. Start to share an opinion, then pivot to something safer. Your authentic thoughts and feelings get filtered through so many layers of anticipated judgment that what emerges is a ghost of what you really meant to say. David built a successful career as the guy who never rocked the boat. He nodded at meetings, agreed with decisions, kept his contrary opinions to himself. He was promoted for being easy to work with. But at night, he'd lie awake knowing he'd watched preventable mistakes happen in silence, knowing he'd traded his expertise for approval. You live in the comparative treadmill. Your happiness isn't based on your own progress or satisfaction, but on how you measure against others. You check social media not for connection but for scorekeeping. Their vacation looks better. Their job sounds more impressive. Their relationship seems happier. You're not living your life. You're auditing it against everyone else's highlight reel. Lisa spent her 20s in a constant state of comparison. Every friend's engagement made her feel behind. Every colleague's promotion made her feel inadequate. She made major life decisions, moving cities, changing careers, even choosing partners. based not on what felt right to her, but on what would look impressive to others. You mistake the performance for yourself. You've been playing a role for so long that you've forgotten it's a role. The polite smile, the diplomatic response, the careful neutrality. These started as masks, but now they feel like your face. When someone asks what you really think or feel, you're genuinely not sure. The performer has consumed the person. Michael was known as the consummate professional, always appropriate, always measured, always saying the right thing. But his wife left him because she said she felt like she was married to a press release. "I don't know who you really are," she told him. The devastating part? Neither did he. You collect permissions instead of making decisions. Every choice becomes a survey. What does your family think about your career change? What do your friends think about your relationship? What does the internet think about your opinion? You're not seeking advice. You're seeking approval. And when you don't get it, you freeze. You apologize for existing. You say sorry for taking up space, for having needs, for expressing opinions, for being human. You apologize for things that aren't your fault, for situations you didn't create, for simply being present in the world. Each apology is a small surrender, an acknowledgement that your existence is somehow an imposition on others. These aren't character flaws. They're survival strategies that have outlived their usefulness. They're the behaviors of someone who learned early that acceptance was more important than authenticity. But what was once adaptive has become a cage. The cruelest irony is that the very behaviors we adopt to avoid judgment often create the exact outcomes we fear. The person who never speaks up gets overlooked. The person who always agrees gets taken advantage of. The person who hides their true self never finds genuine connection. In trying to avoid rejection, we reject ourselves. The cost of fear. What does it cost to live in the silent prison? Everything that makes life worth living. Start with opportunities. How many chances have slipped by because you were too afraid to seem eager, too worried about failure, too concerned about looking foolish? The job you didn't apply for because your qualifications weren't perfect. The person you didn't approach because rejection would sting. The idea you didn't pitch because it might be criticized. Rebecca had a business idea that kept her awake at night, a solution to a problem she'd experienced personally and knew others shared. She researched it obsessively, wrote business plans, even designed mock-ups. But when it came time to actually start, she froze. What if it failed? What if people thought it was stupid? What if she wasn't qualified enough? 2 years later, she watched someone else launch almost exactly the same idea. It became a multi-million-dollar company. Then there's authenticity. You know that feeling when you're with certain people and you can finally exhale, finally be yourself? That's how rare authentic moments have become. Most of the time, you're performing, playing the role of who you think others want you to be. The cost isn't just exhaustion from the constant performance. It's the slow erosion of knowing who you actually are. Think about your relationships. How many of them are built on the person you pretend to be, rather than who you actually are? How many friends know your opinions, your struggles, your real dreams? The prison doesn't just isolate you from opportunities. It isolates you from genuine human connection. You're surrounded by people who like the version of you that you've carefully constructed for their approval. James realized this at his own birthday party. 30 people showed up, all claiming to be his friends. But as he looked around the room, he realized that none of them really knew him. They knew the professional James, the diplomatic James, the always positive James. But they didn't know about his doubts, his real ambitions, his quiet fears. He was celebrating with a room full of people who liked a stranger wearing his face. The cost extends to your dreams. How many of your goals are actually your goals, and how many are what you think will impress others? The career path that looks good on paper, but feels empty in practice. The relationship that checks all the social boxes but leaves you feeling alone. The lifestyle that photographs well but doesn't fit who you actually are. Consider the dreams you've abandoned not because they were impossible, but because they seemed impractical, silly, or different. The art you stopped making because it wasn't serious enough. The causes you stopped supporting because they were too controversial. The travels you postponed because they seemed frivolous. How many pieces of yourself have you sacrificed on the altar of others' opinions? The prison extracts a psychological toll as well. Living in constant fear of judgment creates chronic stress. Your nervous system stays activated, always scanning for threats to your social standing. This isn't just uncomfortable. It's physiologically damaging. Studies show that people with high social anxiety have increased cortisol levels, weakened immune systems, and higher rates of depression and anxiety disorders. But perhaps the deepest cost is regret. Not the regret of things you did that didn't work out. That's learning. But the regret of things you never tried, words you never spoke, chances you never took because you were afraid of what others might think. This is the regret that cuts deepest because it's not about failure. It's about never trying. As Seneca observed, we suffer more in imagination than in reality. Most of the judgment we fear never materializes. Most of the critics we worry about aren't paying attention. Most of the rejection we anticipate doesn't happen. But the fear of these phantom consequences shapes our real choices, limits our real opportunities, and diminishes our real lives. The artist who never shares their work doesn't fail. They disappear. The leader who never steps up doesn't get rejected. They get overlooked. The person who lives a safe life doesn't face criticism. They face the quiet devastation of wondering what if. At the end of life, studies consistently show people don't regret the things they did that didn't work out. They regret the things they never tried. They regret the words they never spoke, the risks they never took, the person they never allowed themselves to become because they were too afraid of what others might think. Breaking free. The lock on the silent prison isn't complex, but it requires something most people find terrifying: the willingness to be seen as you actually are, not as you think others want you to be. Breaking free begins with a shift in perspective. Instead of asking, "What will they think?" start asking, "What will I think of myself if I don't act?" Instead of "What if I fail?" ask, "What if I succeed?" Instead of "What if they judge me?" ask, "What if their judgment says more about them than about me?" Start with exposure. Deliberately do small things that might draw judgment. Speak up in a meeting. Post an opinion online. Wear something that feels bold. Ask for what you want. The goal isn't to be reckless or offensive. It's to gradually expand your comfort zone with being visible. Sarah, the woman from our opening who kept deleting her comments, decided to try an experiment. For 1 week, she would post one authentic thought per day on social media. Not controversial for the sake of controversy, but genuine. Her heart raced with each post. But something interesting happened. The sky didn't fall. Some people agreed. Some disagreed. Most didn't respond at all. The judgment she feared was largely imaginary. Practice reframing. When someone criticizes you, instead of automatically assuming they're right, consider the source. Are they qualified to judge? Do they have your best interests at heart? Are they perhaps projecting their own fears or limitations onto you? Criticism often says more about the critic than about you. Marcus, who stayed silent in that boardroom meeting, started applying this lens to his fear of his boss's disapproval. He realized that his boss's tendency to shut down dissent wasn't strength, it was insecurity. Armed with this perspective, Marcus began to speak up more often. Some of his ideas were dismissed, but others were implemented. His boss began to respect him more, not less. Embrace the Stoic perspective. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." You can't control others' opinions, but you can control how much those opinions influence your decisions. Make peace with the fact that some people won't like you, won't approve of your choices, won't understand your path. That's not a bug in the system. That's a feature. Universal approval is neither possible nor desirable. Adopt Nietzsche's challenge. Instead of conforming to existing values, create your own. Ask yourself, what do you actually believe, independent of what others think? What kind of person do you want to be when no one is watching? What would you attempt if you knew no one would judge the outcome? These questions can be uncomfortable, but they're the beginning of authentic living. Practice the 10-10-10 rule. When facing a decision clouded by fear of judgment, ask yourself, will this matter in 10 minutes? 10 months? 10 years? Often you'll find that the judgment you're fearing will be forgotten in days, while the regret of not acting might last for decades. Build a different kind of scorecard. Instead of measuring success by others' approval, measure it by your own standards. Did you act with integrity? Did you show up as your authentic self? Did you take a step toward your real goals? This isn't selfishness, it's self-respect. Seek feedback, not approval. There's a crucial difference. Feedback is information that helps you improve. Approval is emotional validation that makes you feel accepted. Feedback serves your growth. Approval serves your anxiety. One moves you forward, the other keeps you trapped. Surround yourself with people who see you clearly. This doesn't mean people who always agree with you or never challenge you. It means people who know your flaws and love you anyway, who support your growth even when it's uncomfortable, who value your authenticity over your agreeability. These relationships become a sanctuary where you can practice being real. Take action before you feel ready. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's action despite fear. You don't overcome the fear of judgment by waiting until you're not afraid anymore. You overcome it by acting while afraid again and again, until the fear loses its power over your choices. The goal isn't to become someone who never cares what others think. That's not humanity. That's psychopathy. The goal is to care about the right opinions for the right reasons. To value the input of people who know you well and want the best for you, while becoming immune to the casual judgments of strangers and the projections of the insecure. Freedom from the silent prison doesn't mean you'll never be judged. You will be. It means that being judged will no longer determine your choices. It means the possibility of disapproval will no longer veto the possibility of living authentically. Conclusion: the silent prison exists because we hand over the key. Every time we choose someone else's comfort over our own authenticity, we reinforce the bars. Every time we silence ourselves to avoid conflict, we strengthen the locks. Every time we dim our light so others don't feel overshadowed, we make the prison darker. But here's the beautiful paradox. The same power that creates the prison can destroy it. Your mind built these walls. Your mind can tear them down. Your fear constructed these barriers. Your courage can remove them. Your choices created this cage. Your choices can open it. The day you stop living for the eyes of others is the day you start living for yourself. Not in a selfish, destructive way, but in a way that honors your authentic self and allows you to contribute your real gifts to the world. The people who matter don't mind, and the people who mind don't matter. Think about the people you most admire, the leaders, artists, innovators, and heroes who inspire you. What do they have in common? They all at some point chose authenticity over approval. They risked judgment for the sake of truth, faced criticism for the sake of progress, accepted rejection for the sake of their vision. They broke free from their own silent prisons and in doing so gave others permission to do the same. Your authentic self isn't selfish, it's essential. The world doesn't need another well-behaved conformist. It needs what you have to offer, but only if you're brave enough to offer it. Your unique perspective, your different approach, your contrarian view, these aren't flaws to be hidden. They're gifts to be shared. The prison promises safety, but it delivers stagnation. It promises acceptance, but it delivers invisibility. It promises peace, but it delivers the quiet desperation of a life unlived. Real safety comes from knowing you can handle whatever judgment comes your way. Real acceptance comes from accepting yourself. Real peace comes from living in alignment with your values, not in submission to others' expectations. So here's the question that will either lock you deeper in the prison or help you find the key. What choice in your life have you delayed or denied because of fear of judgment? What dream have you deferred? What truth have you left unspoken? What risk have you avoided? What authentic part of yourself have you kept hidden? And more importantly, what would happen if you finally acted? Not recklessly, but courageously. Not carelessly, but authentically. Not to rebel against others, but to be faithful to yourself. The prison door isn't locked from the outside. It never was. It's locked from the inside by your own hand with your own fears secured by your own need for approval. But that means you hold the key. You've always held the key. The question isn't whether you can break free. The question is whether you will. The world is waiting for the real you to show up. Stop making it wait. If this resonated with you, subscribe for more explorations into the psychology of human behavior. And until then, practice being courageously, authentically you.